Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, it's Monday, December 28th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. We have a jam-packed show. There's a lot going on. It's been a very busy Monday. We had a great show Sunday night also, so check out our shows on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. You can go back and watch the show, and we rebroadcast it as well throughout the week. And throughout the day, we have rebroadcasts of the shows. All right, well, today we saw that the U.S. House of Representatives, mainly Democrats in the House of Representatives, passed a $2,000 stimulus check after Donald Trump signed the coronavirus bill and the spending bill late on Sunday. And they signed it was with bipartisan support that they passed the $2,000 stimulus checks in the House of Representatives. Now it has to go to the Senate. It's not expected to pass the Senate. We'll see what happens there. So we'll talk some about that. And then also, many people have seen us post about this story about an African-American doctor named Dr. Susan Moore. And Dr. Susan Moore passed away from coronavirus, COVID-19. And she documented her bout with coronavirus while in a hospital. She was hospitalized at Indiana University Health North, and she documented her stay at the hospital in a December 4th Facebook post, which included video recorded from her hospital bed. And she detailed her complaints and dissatisfaction with how the staff members were treating her. And she believed it was because she was African-American. She believed it was racism. She talked about the doctor and the doctor not giving her pain medication. And she's a doctor, so she knows exactly what to ask for, exactly what type of test to tell them to run. So this story has gone viral. I first saw the story covered, I think it was last week or so, by Roland Martin. Roland Martin was the first person I saw who covered this story, even before mainstream media got a hold to it. Roland Martin covered this, and it may have been early last week or late the week before. So I've seen it covered in mainstream media. New York Times has an article from a few days ago about it. It's an extensive article from New York Times. But since then, let's see, Black doctor dies of COVID-19 after complaining of racist treatment. Black doctor dies of COVID-19 after complaining about racist treatment. Now, since then, you've had 4 African-American female doctors who have written an op-ed article for the Washington Post talking about the racism in the medical industry, et cetera. In an opinion article published in the Washington Post, 4 advocates for racial justice in healthcare said that Dr. Moore's death resulted from a biased system. Resulted from a biased system, and they go through and break this down. So we'll talk some about that. There was on the Sunday show, which is a new show on MSNBC in the former Sunday weekend time slot of Joanne Reed, Jonathan Capehart did a segment with 3 African-American physicians. And one of the things he talked about, and they talked about the panel, was this case right here, this story right here. And this ties into a history of mistreatment when it comes to, this ties into a history of mistreatment of African Americans when it comes to the medical industry. But then it ties into racism as well. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism comes out of a system of European white supremacy and is designed to preserve genetic white survival. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, healthcare, education, media, jobs, land, etc., and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. This is what racism is. Contrary to popular belief, racism has nothing to do with not liking people or calling people racial epithets or things like this. That's not racism. That's bigotry. Racism is a power structure. Okay. And oftentimes what happens is people are using these terms and it becomes so amorphous or ambiguous that you don't know what it is that they're talking about. So we have to be very clear, okay, and understand what racism is and understand racism from a historical perspective. Understand what racism is from a historical perspective, okay? All right. Okay, so we'll talk about that story also. And then and then that story, when it comes to painkillers, that ties into a history of stereotypes when it comes to African Americans. One stereotype being that the belief that African Americans have a higher pain threshold, which goes back to slavery. Okay, the belief, the stereotype that African Americans have a higher pain threshold, but also there was a study done, and it came out a few years ago. Blackdoctor.org had an article about this, and it dealt with how you had medical school students who believed that African American patients, white medical school students who believed that African American patients did not feel pain or had high pain thresholds. There was an article from there was a study done, and blackdoctor.org has an article about this. Doctors still believe Black people don't feel pain, and it's being taught in medical school. Doctors still believe Black people don't feel pain, and it's taught in medical school. In this article from blackdoctor.org says Black and Hispanic patients in U.S. emergency rooms are less likely to receive medication to ease acute pain than their white counterparts. That is unfortunately a fact. There has been a study that found when an African American person enters an emergency room with a pain like a broken bone, and then a white person enters an emergency room with the same ailment, the African American person will receive a lesser dosage and even sometimes an inferior treatment. But it's the exact same injury, not a disease or condition, but injury related. As a matter of fact, a study found that when patients had long bone fractures, long, L-O-N-G, long bone fractures, or acute pain from other types of traumatic injuries, African Americans were 41% less likely to get pain medication than white people. African Americans were 41% less likely to get pain medication than white people. So the question is asked, why is that? This ties into racism. This ties into stereotypes about African Americans. A study published in 2016 sheds light on why this is continuing. Racial disparities are being taught. A study published in the year 2016 sheds light on why this is continuing. It's continuing because racial disparities are continuing to be taught. So we'll talk some about this study here also. This ties into history. When we look at the opioid crisis, And I was just watching a special Sunday night on MSNBC, a 2-hour special dealing with the whole opioid crisis, and it's dealing with the origin of heroin usage in this country, and it's dealing with the Bear Company, Bayer, and heroin and all the types of things like this. But there was a fear when you had pain medication. There was a fear about giving this pain medication to African Americans, because especially African American men, because what would they do when they're high on this pain medication? Are they going to try to rape white women? Or is it going to be harder to kill them when they're high on this pain medication? It's the same thing with cocaine. If you go back to, we talked about this a couple nights on the show, a couple nights ago. If you go back to February 8th, 1914, 106 years ago, there was a huge article from the New York Times, because the New York Times is over 100 years old. There was a huge article from the New York Times called "Negro Cocaine Fiends Have Turned to Sniffing Since Prohibition." And I'll try to pull up the exact article, or there was an article from thenation.com that talked about this article from 100 years ago. But this article dealt with the fear of Black people using cocaine, especially African American men. So the original article from the New York Times was called "Negro Cocaine Fiends Are a New Southern Menace. Murder and Insanity Increasing Among Lower Class Blacks Because They Have Taken to Sniffing Since Deprived of Whiskey by Prohibition." This was a real article. I'm not making this up. It's too much real history out there for me to make stuff up. I'm a researcher. I don't write fiction. Anybody that knows me, I don't read fiction. I don't write fiction. I don't have time for that. I'm a historian and I'm a researcher. Okay. I don't deal with fiction. All right. I watch Star Wars, but Star Wars is based upon the Assyrian drama, coming from Asar, Set, and Heru, coming out of ancient Kemet. That comes out of African culture and African mythology. But I know we're coming up here on the break here, okay? And we haven't even done the intro yet to the show. I'm just laying out the show, okay? So let me pull this up here. We're going to try to turn on the screen share and go to this. This is a article from 106 years ago. And see, what happens is when you read, I like to read articles from 100 years ago, 120 years ago, things like that, because you also get to understand the mentality of the people back at that time. You get to understand the mindset, the culture, things like that back at that time. Okay. So those watching on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, we're showing you this actual article from February 8th, 1914, 106 years ago, almost 107 years ago, from the New York Times. "Negro cocaine fiends are a new Southern menace. Murder and insanity increasing among lower class Blacks because they have taken to sniffing since deprived of whiskey by prohibition." This was an article written by Edward Huntington Williams, MD. He was a doctor. Okay. So when you go, so I had to, and I have to log in. I had to get a digital subscription to the New York Times to be able to read this 106-year-old article. That's why I have a subscription to the New York Times today. Okay. Because I was trying to gain access to it to read this historical article. I was doing research. All right. So you got to understand this history. All right. A lot of people don't understand this. Okay. So then when you look at the article from the and we'll post a link here to on the thread of the broadcast to this article here. When we look at the one from blackdoctor.org, okay, dealing with medical students and pain, this ties back into that history. Okay, so this is why we have to understand history and racism. If we look at this one here, let's see here. This is This is from, what time is it? Okay. How much time before the break? Okay, looks like I think we have 2 minutes before the break, Shakita. If we go here, blackdoctor.org. Blackdoctor.org is a very, very good resource for information. WebMD has some good stuff, but blackdoctor.org, that's for us, by us. Okay. I'm not saying don't use web, but blackdoctor.org is really good. Doctors still believe Black people don't feel pain and is being taught in medical school. Doctors still believe Black people don't feel pain and is being taught in medical school. This is an excellent article from blackdoctor.org. Okay. We're going to deal with all this on the other side of the break. Also, today's the birth date of one Denzel Washington, my favorite actor, Denzel Washington, and also Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek. And we're going to talk about how Nichelle Nichols wanted to quit Star Trek, but it was international African-American who convinced her not to quit Star Trek. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to talk about why, what happened, why did he convince her? Why did he say you cannot quit that show? Also, Nichelle Nichols portrayed an African woman who went into space, but she actually influenced an African woman who did go into space. Her name was Dr. Mae C. Jemison. We'll talk about her story as well. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, everybody, stand by. All right, everybody, stand by. We're back from break in a couple minutes. I got to get ready for this next segment. Okay, African-American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay, stand by. We'll be back from break in, I think, 2 minutes here. I need to get ready for this next segment here. Continue reading. All right, how's everybody doing today? All right, let's see here. All right, stand by. We'll be back from break in just a minute here. Stand by, everybody. All right. Let's see here. Okay, we're on commercial break. We'll be back in a minute here. Stand by, everybody. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday. Almost says Sunday. It's Monday, December 28th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. And at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So for 4 years, we were doing this show on Sundays. And then as of October 12th, 2020, we're on 6 nights a week. Okay, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, and then Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so when you donate, that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. You purchase our DVD lectures at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. My digital downloads, it helps us to keep broadcasting. All right, so so we right before the break, we were talking about the story of Dr. Susan Moore. We're going to come back to that in just a second here, share some more information with you. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. You can also sign up for it at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. I'm going to go back to the first story very quickly here, dealing with the House of Representatives passing the $2,000 stimulus checks. Okay. If we look at the article here, we'll look quickly at two of them. Then we'll go back to the story about Dr. Susan Moore, 52 years old, who died of coronavirus, documented her bout with coronavirus and the allegations she made against the hospital, Indiana University Health North, and the doctor, and she was alleging racism. Okay. If we look here at the NBCnews.com has an article, House backs increasing coronavirus stimulus checks. House backs increasing coronavirus stimulus checks. The Democratic-controlled House of Representatives narrowly passed a bill Monday evening, to increase direct coronavirus relief payments to some people to $2,000 through the measure, though the measure faces an uphill battle in the Republican-ran Senate, despite support from Donald Trump, who's on his way out and needs to call the Jim James, Paul and Tyrone Moving Company to help him come pack his stuff. Now, the legislation would increase the $600 direct payments to those earning less than $75,000 in last year. In 2019, it would increase it to $2,000, one-time check to $2,000. Now, because the bill was brought up using an expedited procedure, it required a 2/3 majority vote to pass the House of Representatives. So it passed the House of Representatives barely, 275 to 134, just 2 votes more than the 273 needed to get a 2/3 majority vote. Now, Donald Trump insisted on increasing the payments after his administration struck a deal for $600 checks as part of a coronavirus relief government spending package, which passed both chambers, the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate last week. But the $600 was Steve Mnuchin's idea. Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, Trump's man, who's negotiating the deals on behalf of the White House. Steve Mnuchin is the one that proposed the $600. Okay, that didn't just fall out of the air. Democrats originally wanted $2,000 in the $3.4 trillion HEROES Act that passed the House of Representatives May 15th, 2020. So if Trump wanted 2,000, where the hell you been for the past 8 months? Why didn't you tell Steve Mnuchin you wanted 2,000? Why didn't you tell Moscow Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper? Why didn't you tell him you wanted 2,000? Why didn't you tell Lindsey Graham you wanted 2,000? How many times you been playing golf with Lindsey Graham? Why didn't you tell Lindsey Graham I want $2,000? Go back and run and tell Moscow Mitch I want 2,000. Quote, I simply want to get our people $2,000 rather than the measly $600 that is now in the bill. That's what your man proposed. And you were in direct contact with Mnuchin. Okay. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat from California, applauded the vote Monday, December 28th, saying, quote, the House and the president are in agreement. We must deliver $2,000 checks to American families struggling this holiday season. The House just passed the hashtag Cash Act. It's time for the Senate to do the same, end quote. Now, Donald Trump cited the scheduled House vote in a statement Sunday, December 27th, announcing that he had finally signed the $2.3 trillion COVID-19 relief and government funding package. Now, as we talked about last week, like last Tuesday and Wednesday, because some people putting stuff out here and don't know what they're talking about. As we talked about last week, there were two bills under one vote. So you had people saying, oh, it's all this foreign aid in the coronavirus bill. No, it wasn't. The foreign aid was in the $1.4 trillion U.S. spending bill, which is the bill to fund the government through September 2021. That wasn't in the $900 billion coronavirus bill. There were two bills under one vote. If you watched the show last week, you know we broke this down. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, said he would try to pass the bill Tuesday, December 29th, by unanimous consent in the U.S. Senate. We need to go to senate.gov and read and study the rules of the U.S. Senate, because many of us don't understand the rules of the Senate, especially people talking about reparations now. Reparations now from who? You couldn't even get if you can't get a Juneteenth bill passed in the Senate, how the hell are you going to get a reparations bill passed in the Senate? Nobody wants to use logic. The Juneteenth bill that Senator Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker were trying to get passed in the Senate was blocked by Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin using unanimous consent. If you can't get a bill passed to make Juneteenth a federal holiday and give white people the day off from work, how you going to get a bill passed in the Senate to pay reparations? I'm still waiting on somebody to answer that question for me. I'm still waiting on somebody to answer that question for me. Okay. Quote, every Senate Democrat is for it, but unfortunately, we don't have the Republicans on board, end quote, said Chuck Schumer. You think? Quote, these Senate Republicans have followed you through thick and thin. Get them now to act and to support the $2,000 check, Schumer said. All right, we'll see. Now, what Trump did, now most people knew Trump was going to eventually sign the bill, okay? Because if he didn't sign it, it was by Tuesday, sometime Tuesday, I can't remember, it was midnight Tuesday, what have you. The government was shut down. It would run out of funding. That $1.4 trillion spending bill, which was attached to the coronavirus bill, that's to fund the government. Government would have shut down. That would have impacted the distribution of vaccines. That would have impacted coronavirus testing that's funded by the government. So most people realize that this dumbass gonna sign it. Okay. Now I shouldn't call him a dumbass. You know, my mother listens to the show and she sent me an email. She got on me about my language. So, you know, she wants me to stop calling dumbass people. So I gotta come up with another word for it. Okay. I had to pull them out the source. All right. So anyway. All right. So check out this article here from NBC News. All right. House backs increasing coronavirus stimulus checks to $2,000. Then Washington Post has a good article as well. House votes to boost stimulus checks to $2,000 with bipartisan support. All right. Now, what people can do is they can call their U.S. Senator's office and put pressure on them, tell them to pass the $2,000 stimulus checks. You want to call the Congressional Switchboard. What's the number to the Congressional Switchboard, Michael Imhotep? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked the question. The number to the Congressional Switchboard is area code 202-224-3121. Area code 202-224-3121. Yeah, we have a operator answering the phone right now. So, all right. Okay. So let's continue. Um, all right, let's continue. Okay, let's go back to this story here dealing with Dr. Susan Moore. Okay. And NBC News has a really good article dealing with this. Um, how's everybody doing? You all should be able to hear. Um, Black physicians' COVID-19 death demonstrates bias of U.S. healthcare system, peers say. Peers. Black physicians' COVID-19 death demonstrates bias of healthcare system, peers say. This is from December 28th, 2020. All right. And it's a really good article written by Stephen Sykes. The COVID-19 death this month of a Black physician who says she had to beg for proper medical care, was prematurely discharged from a hospital. So Dr. Sue, this story has gone viral as it should. And then also very quickly, we posted a article as well from Baltimore Sun. We posted one from the Baltimore Sun about an African-American male doctor, and we may talk about this some tomorrow night. Dr. Lloyd T. Bowser Jr., who was a podiatrist. He made house calls. He passed away of coronavirus also. Dr. Lloyd Thomas, house calls for elderly. He enjoyed fitness training. He applications November 13th at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. He was 56 years old. So there's an article from Baltimore Sun about him. And we'll try to talk about this either Tuesday or Wednesday on our show. Okay. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute here. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. So Dr. Susan Moore, 52 years old, of Indianapolis, says she tested positive for coronavirus on November 29th, 2020, and was hospitalized at Indiana University, Health North, Indiana University Health North. She documented her tumultuous stay in a December 4th, 2020 Facebook post, which included video recorded from her hospital bed. Now, I first saw this story covered by Roland Martin on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right. And this was either early last week or late the week before. And this story has gone viral. So even before mainstream media got to this, Roland was covering this story. All right. So the video is about 7 minutes in length, and it detailed her complaints and dissatisfaction with how staff members were treating her, which she believed was because she was African American. Now, you have to show proof that now one of the doctors here that there were four doctors that wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post. Okay. You have to show proof that you have something wrong with you in order for you to get the medicine. Dr. Susan Moore said in the video. She said, I put forth and I maintain that if I was white, I wouldn't have to go through that. Now, a number of her peers on social media agreed. Quote, these are the issues we face as we go, and then we find ourselves as patients. We are disrespected, devalued, and dismissed, said Dr. Omalara Uwemadimo, who tweeted this. She went on to say, quote, it cost Dr. Moore her life. Her medical degree did not save her from the racism that she endured while battling for her life. Now, in an opinion article published in the Washington Post, 4 advocates for racial justice in healthcare said that her death resulted from a biased system. Her death resulted from a biased system. And, you know, I think they are correct. From what I know about this case, I think they are correct. Quote, no matter how well intentioned our healthcare system is, it has not rooted out the false idea of a hierarchy of human valuation based on skin color, and the falser idea that if there were such a hierarchy, white people would be at the top of the hierarchy, said the op-ed article by Dr. Aletha Maybank, Chief Healthy Equity Officer at the American Medical Association, Dr. Kamara Phyllis Jones, a family physician and epidemiologist and past president of the American Public Health Association, Dr. Uche Blackstock, founder and CEO of Advancing Health Equity, and I see her oftentimes on MSNBC, and Dr. Joya Creer Perry, C-R-E-A-R, Dr. Joya Creer Perry, president of the National Equity Collaborative. Now, Dr. Moore said that throughout her stay, okay, Dr. Susan Moore said that throughout her stay at the hospital, her doctor was not receptive to her concerns and routinely played down her pain, or routinely downplayed her pain. Her doctor was not receptive to her concerns and routinely downplayed her pain. Only after she underwent a CT scan, which allowed hospital personnel to see her lungs for themselves, did the doctor agree to prescribe her the narcotics she needed. Okay. It was only after Dr. Susan Moore underwent a CT scan, did the doctor agree to prescribe her the narcotics she needed. Okay. Now, on the December 27th edition of the Sunday Show, hosted by Jonathan Capehart on MSNBC, he had a panel of 3 African-American doctors, and they talked about the coronavirus vaccine, dispelled myths and misinformation floating around on social media. But they also talked about this case. Let's go to that clip, Shakita.
Going to conduct anti-racism training of its staff. I'm just going to throw this out. Whoever wants to answer it first.
Oh, hey, Shakita, do me a favor. Back that clip up about 10 seconds or so.
No.
Back that clip up about 10 or 20 seconds.
Yeah. Let's answer it first. Is that enough?
No. No. Let me say this. Yeah. So let me say
Go ahead, Dr. Hebert.
Yeah, I will tell you, and this is very important. Everything has to start somewhere, but this is something that is always on the heels of something horrible happening. One thing that is a travesty, when we talk about people not actually understanding that this vaccine came to market so quickly, is that generally it takes 8 years for something like this to happen. We'll never go back to that, because I won't allow that. It shouldn't take 8 years. It should take a year. But the red tape of all the bureaucracy and all the drug companies and the government, that's the issue that makes things take so long. So is this a good place to start? Yes, everything has to start somewhere, but this must be comprehensive. And first, people must recognize the fact that it is a problem. And that is the biggest issue that we have as an impediment to medicine, and not just for African Americans. A lot of people get horrible care in medical facilities, not just Black people, and we don't change that. And what you must do is wash up, mask up, separate, and vaccinate. That's what you must do so we can get through this thing and get back to normal. That's what we have.
That's a great mantra. Wash up, mask up, separate, and vaccinate. Dr. Cyrus,
you can start
Dr. Corey there. Dr. Cyrus, you wanted to jump in.
I do. I have another mantra, and that's put your money where your mouth is, Indiana University. I think that training, yes, sure. But we also know that it's way past the training at this point. I would like to see some sort of Dr. Susan Moore policy. I would like to see more Black nurses. I would like to see how they're going to invest, not just in training, but hiring people who they know have a track record of effective patient care with good patient outcomes and reports and satisfaction. So I want to know that there are going to be people who look like Susan Moore, who look like people of color, who don't trust the individuals in this hospital, that she literally said, I looked at her as if she was an addict. This is a woman who went to a top 20 medical school, who is a physician, who's filming from in the hospital bed. Hospitals need to invest and also have some accountability responses, right? For when outcomes don't go the way that they should be going. Who's keeping track of these numbers? How are they being penalized? We need more than just training, right? They need to have, and they need a motivation to have more than just training. And it needs to start with investing and money and actual real action.
Nichelle Norris, I'll give you the last word here.
I'm focused on the people who are closest to the ground here. And I think it's really important that when we try to earn the trust of the community, that they include people from the community, because I think that is where trust is going to be earned. So the people who live in the community officers, church officials, and recognizing and doing that, the state of Colorado, for instance, built into its vaccination plan the recognition of racial disparities. I mean, they actually codified it, and that is a start, because you admit that problem exists, and we can't ignore this.
That was from the Sunday Show with Jonathan Capehart from Sunday, December 20th.
When it comes to different races of people, in general, you might have Irish, Russian, Greek, Nigerian, and different tribes from Africa that has different ways of doing things, I would assume. But is it possible that, or have it been recorded through research, that there people do have different chemistry when it comes to complexion, and chemistry, body, blood type and things like that, complexions and things like that when it comes to the different races of people, even the people who considered the same race, but we still, what I see is we're still independent, different, when it comes to
you may have some difference. You may have some blood types that are more likely to be African American or European or something like that. You can have differences in certain traits, genes or something like that, man. But I'll try to address that in a future show. We'll bring on some experts to discuss that. Okay. All right. But thanks, Charles. Keep listening. Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Hey, today is all right. So let me get back to this article quickly, and then we're gonna talk about Nichelle Nichols and Denzel Washington, because I have a clip of Nichelle Nichols I want to play before we're out of time here. In her last update, Dr. Sharon Moore said she was being transferred to intensive care. She died December 20th, 2020, according to news reports. Let's see, in the Facebook post, which she kept updated, Dr. Moore chronicled her discharge from the hospital, her return home, and the worsening of her condition. Quote, "I was home for less than 12 hours, spiked a temperature of 103, and my blood pressure plummeted to 80 over 60 with a heart rate of 132. I'm back in the hospital, a different hospital, St. Vincent Carmel. Okay. Now, a spokesperson for Indiana University Health North would not comment about Dr. Moore's allegations specifically, but said, quote, "We are very sad to hear of her passing," end quote, and shared the following statement on behalf of the hospital. The statement says, IU North, Indiana University North, respects and holds patient privacy and cannot comment on a specific patient, their medical history or conditions. As an organization committed to equity and reducing racial disparities in healthcare, we take accusations of discrimination very seriously and investigate every allegation. Treatment options are often agreed upon and reviewed by medical experts from a variety of specialties, and we stand by the commitment and expertise of our caregivers and the quality of care delivered to our patients every day. All right, check out this article here from NBCnews.com. Black physicians' COVID-19 death demonstrates bias of U.S. healthcare system, peers say. Now, there was also one from Daily Mail from dailymail.co.uk. There was one from December 28th, and then I'm going to go to that clip from Nichelle Nichols. Shakita, so cue that up, please. Hospital CEO under fire for saying Black doctor who died of COVID intimidated her nursing team. Hospital CEO under fire for saying Black doctor who died of COVID intimidated her nursing team. Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit after this clip here. So today is the birth date of one Nichelle Nichols, who many of us first saw as Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. She was born December 28th, 1932. She's an American actress, African-American actress, singer, and voice artist, best known for her portrayal of Nyota Uhura in Star Trek, the original series, and in its film sequels. Now, there was a time when she was thinking, when she wanted to quit Star Trek, and it was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that convinced her not to quit. Let's go to this clip, Shakita.
And I said, which is all that I was able to say. My mouth just opened and closed.
Started from the beginning.
He said, "We admire you greatly, you know."
Shakita, start the clip from the beginning, please. Thank you. So this was like the first African-American woman that we saw in space. Go ahead.
The first season, I had so much fan mail that I didn't know I had. that was in the mail room, that they offered me a contract. I also was offered a role, a play to do that was Broadway bound. And I was going to leave the show and take that. And it was a good role. Forget what the heck it was now. And so I went in and told Gene that I was going to, when the season was up, I was going to. And Gene says, you can't do that. Yes, I can. And he said, don't you understand what I'm trying to achieve here? I said, Gene, you've been wonderful. And I really thank you for this opportunity. But, you know, my life is theater, musical theater. And I'm getting offers for all kinds of wonderful things where I want to be. And he was sitting behind his desk, and he looked up at me, and he said, and I handed him my resignation that I'd written out. And he took it, and I finally laid it on the desk, and he looked at it, and he said, take the weekend, Nichelle, because that's how I know it was either Thursday or Friday. And he said, and think about it. And if you feel the same way the beginning of next week, if you still feel that way, think about this. It's more than you think it is. Just think about it. And if you still want to go on by Monday morning, I'll give you my blessing. Go with my blessings. And he took the resignation and stuck it in his desk drawer. And I said, thanks, Gene. And I skipped out of there. Whew, that went better than I thought. And as fate would have it, I've always used this way because I believe in fate. I believe it was fated. I was to be a celebrity guest at some fundraising thing in Beverly Hills. I believe it was an NAACP fundraiser, but it might not have been, but I think it was. And so I went to do this on that Saturday night, and I had just been taken to the dais and sat down when the organizer came over and said, Miss Nichols, how are you? And blah, blah, blah. And he said, listen, there's someone here who said he is your biggest fan. And he's looking cherubly, you know. And he said, and he's desperate to meet you. He really wants to meet you. And I said, oh, thank you. Now I know, you know, lots of fan mail, and I've seen it, the shows, and they're being on for, you know, and the ones that I got.
Okay, we got to pause it there. We're out of time here. We're going to continue this on our social media platforms. If you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting there. We'll continue that clip. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. All right, remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Greg Davis, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Let me disconnect this call. All right, how's everybody doing? Sorry for the technical difficulties. I need to get a new laptop. We're going to continue with that clip. African American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and email us at africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. Okay, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at africanhistorynetwork.com. All right, we're going to go. back to this clip and where we left off. This is Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek, talking about when she wanted to quit the role of Lieutenant Uhura, and how Dr. King intervened and told her, you can't do that. Okay. Let's go back to this clip.
And I was on hiatus at best. So I said, certainly. And I stand up and turn, and I'm thinking, it's a Star Trek fan. He said, it's a Star Trek fan. I'm looking for a young man who's a Star Trek fan. I turn, and instead of fan, there's this face the world knows with this beautiful smile on it. And I remember thinking, whoever that fan is going to have to wait, because Dr. Martin Luther King, my leader, is walking toward me, not 10 feet away, with a beautiful smile on his face. And then this man says, yes, Miss Nichols, I am that fan. I am your best fan, your greatest fan. And my family are your greatest fans. As a matter of fact, this is the only show on television that my wife, Coretta, and I will allow our little children to watch, to stay up and watch, because it's on past their bedtime. And I said, which was all that I was able to say. My mouth just opened and closed. He said, we admire you greatly, you know. And he said some more things, and the manner in which you've created this role has dignity and so forth. And he said, you know, and before he said, I said, Dr. King, thank you so much. And then I got the courage to say, and I really am going to miss my co-stars. And he said, what do you mean? Dead serious. What are you talking about? I said, well, I've had an off. He said, you cannot. And I said, well, I'm going to leave Star Trek because going to say have an offer to star in I never got that far. I said, well, I'm leaving Star Trek. He said, you cannot. You cannot. And I felt like that little boy, Willis. What you talking about, Dr. King? But you know I didn't say that. No. But I was taken aback, and I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. He said, don't you understand what this man has achieved, is achieving or something? And I thought, deja vu all over again. I just looked at him. He said, for the first time on television, we will be seen as we should be seen every day, as intelligent, quality, beautiful people who can sing, dance, but who can go into space, who can be lawyers, who can be teachers, who can be professors, who are in this day, and yet you don't see it on television until now. And he went on, so many of the things, perhaps some of the things he said, but I could say nothing. I just stood there, realizing every word that he was saying was the truth. And he said, if you leave, Nichelle, Gene Roddenberry has opened a door for the world to see us. If you leave, that door can be closed, because you see, your role is not a black role, and it's not a female role. He can fill it with anything, including an alien. And at that moment, the world tilted for me. And I knew then, I didn't want to know it because I was going to go through some more turmoil for the rest of the week end. But I knew that I was something else, that the world was not the same. And that's all I could think of was Dr. King. Everything that he had said. The world sees us for the first time as we should be seen. And I remember being angry come Sunday or whatever. Why me? Why should I have to? Whatever happened come Monday morning, I went to Gene, and I'm not sure to this day if I knew what I was going to say. He's sitting behind that same dang desk. And he had whoever he was talking to had to leave because I went there first. And I said, Gene, and I told him what happened. And I said, if you still want me to stay, I'll stay. I have to. And he opened his drawer and he looked up at me and said, God bless Dr. Martin Luther King. Somebody knows where I'm coming from. And I said, that's what he said in my brain. And he took out my resignation, which was torn into 100 pieces, and handed me the pile. And we just stood there looking at each other. And I finally said, thank you, Gene. And he said, thank you, Nichelle. And my life's never been the same since. And I've never looked back. I've never regretted it. Because I understood the universe had somehow, that universal mind had somehow put me there. And we have choices. Are we going to walk down this road or are we going to walk down the other? And it was the right road for me.
Okay, so that was Nichelle Nichols. That is from METVlegends.org. That's on YouTube. Nichelle Nichols on how Dr. MLK Jr. dissuaded her from quitting Star Trek. Okay, it's a very, very powerful story. So she was born December 28th, 1932. Nichelle Nichols is an American actress, singer, and voice artist, best known for her portrayal as Nyota, Nyota, Nyota Uhura in Star Trek. I don't know if I remember her first name. Okay, in Star Trek, the original series. Now, from my understanding, if I remember correctly on this, the original Star Trek was only on for 3 seasons. You know, we see it in reruns and we think it was 25 seasons, something like that. No, the original Star Trek was only 3 seasons. Okay. And I remember seeing Star Trek when I was a kid and it looked so real to me. Right. But then maybe it was, let me see. Star Trek original series. So 3 seasons or 4 seasons. Let me look at this here. Oh no, that's a different series. I want to look at the original. So it was created by Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek. That's the Gene she was referring to. And Yeah, 3 seasons. Yes, 3 seasons. So I remember watching Star Trek as a kid, and it looked so real, right? But then I remember watching Star Trek as an adult, and I remember it was one episode in particular. There was like this, they were on another planet, and it was like this creature, but it was really a puppet. Okay. And as an adult, I could see the strings hanging down, manipulating the puppet. But as a child, I could, it just looked real to me. Okay. But so the original Star Trek was only on for 3 seasons, but it spurred multiple movies, multiple spin-off TV shows, things like this. It created a whole it was a cult classic, and it then it created, I think from that you get the interest for like a Star Wars, okay? Because the original Star Trek series that aired basically 1966 to 1969, the original Star Trek series. Then in 76, 77, you're going to have Star Wars. And then on television, you're going to have, because of the frenzy that the Star Wars movie creates, you're going to have a TV show called Battlestar Galactica. And Battlestar Galactica was like a TV clone of Star Wars. Okay. So instead of the stormtroopers, you had the cyclones or something like that. And it was like a Battlestar Galactica. You had the robots and things like this. It was like a Star Wars for TV, like a knockoff Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica. All right. You had Lorne Greene, you had Dirk Benedict, who would then go on to be Face Man on the A-Team, right? And it's like, because Star Wars was a huge success, and people had such an appetite for dramas in outer space. But I think a lot of that seed was really planted with Star Trek. Okay. In 1977, Star Wars. Okay, George Lucas. I remember going to see Star Wars when it originally came out in the theater, and when we were like blown away by it. And then you had all the licensing, you had all the toys, comic books, lunch boxes, all that from Star Wars. Okay, yeah, Lorne Greene was in Battlestar Galactica. Then also on television around that same time in the 70s going into the 80s, you had Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Okay, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And that was also something that was in the future. That was in outer space. Now, what's important to note here is that Star Trek and Star Wars, even though they took place in outer space, Star Trek was taking place in the future. Okay. Star Wars was taking place in the past. Because when you watch the beginning of the screen and they show the scroll of the scenario, they show the scroll of the plot. Okay, which is like a throwback to the serials, the serial movies that used to play at the theaters in the 1930s and 40s. And I've got The Green Hornet on DVD from 1939. The serial movies, like 13 episodes, and they would come out with a new movie each week. That's how The Green Hornet starts out. They have the scrolling scenario, and then in the second episode has a recap of what happened in the first episode, and it scrolls vertically, it scrolls up the screen. Okay, that's a throwback to the serials when you see that in Star Wars. George Lucas didn't invent that. We saw that 40 years ago. Okay, but at the beginning of Star Wars, it says something like in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago or something like that, right? Star Wars is looking at the past, not the future. Because of the technology, we think it's looking at the future, like Buck Rogers in the 25th century or Star Trek. But Star Wars is looking at the past. Okay. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. The series ran for 2 seasons between September 1979 and April 1981. Yeah, so that's late 70s. So because you have the popularity of Star Wars 1977 and popularity of Battlestar Galactica, so then you have the TV series Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Okay, it wasn't as popular. And Gil Gerard as Buck Rogers. Okay, yeah, there was only 37 episodes. Okay. And that was on NBC. Okay, and the production recycled many of the props, effect shots, and costumes from Battlestar Galactica, which was still in production at the time the pilot for Buck Rogers was being filmed. All right, check this out from Wikipedia dealing with Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I remember when that came on also. I used to watch that as well. Okay, so on Star Trek, Nichelle Nichols was one of the first Black women or African-American women featured in a major television role, as her prominent supporting role as a bridge officer was unprecedented. Now, Nichelle Nichols sang with Duke Ellington before her role as Lieutenant Uhura. She sang with Duke Ellington and Lionel Hampton before turning to acting. Nichols, let's see here. Nichelle Nichols' role was groundbreaking as one of the first African-American female actors on American television not portrayed as a servant. She also worked to recruit diverse astronauts to NASA, including women and ethnic minorities. Now, if we look at her official website, which is Uhura.com, we look at her official website. It says, before I made the leap to working with the great Duke Ellington, before I became a professional dancer and singer, I had to discover myself. As I learned to believe in my talent, my voice, myself, I learned that I could make others believe as well. And she talked about how Gene Roddenberry believed in me. And let's see, we're going to try to pull this up here. She talked about how Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, believed in me. And let's go to this here. Okay, official website of Nichelle Nichols. So she said, before I made the leap to working with the great Duke Ellington, before I became a professional dancer and singer, I had to discover myself. And let's try to blow this up here. And let's turn on the screen share. Just a second here. Okay. So let's blow this up. All right. So before I made the leap to working with the great Duke Ellington, before I became a professional dancer and singer, I had to discover myself. As I learned to believe in my talent, my voice, myself, I learned that I could make others believe as well. Gene Roddenberry believed in me. His belief presented me with a fantastic opportunity to help conceive and create the groundbreaking role of Uhura on Star Trek, the original series. And my belief was expanded to embrace Gene's vision of a bright future for humanity. When I was on those wonderful sets with all the cast members, the universe of Star Trek began to feel not so much a fantasy, but an opportunity to lay the groundwork for what we might actually achieve by the 23rd century. a bold aspiration and an affirmation of Uhura as we eagerly await her arrival. After my tour of duty on the original series, ended, I was invited to become a spokesperson for NASA, now Aeronautics Administration, where I helped recruit and inspire a new generation of fearless astronauts, young men and women, with a strong belief in themselves, in their potential, and in a future of learning and achievement for all humanity. In motivating them as others once did me, it's as if my life had come back full circle to where the dreams of a young woman began. Today, I want to invite you, my beloved friends and devoted fans, everyone who's helped to make my dreams come true, to see me on my farewell tour later this year. It will be a celebration of my career in entertainment with all its challenges, achievements, and the joy of the journey. I look forward to seeing you all there. Okay. So this is on her official website, uhura.com. Uhura.com. All right. We'll post this link here. You can check this out and check out her website. Okay. Now, there was a Dr. Mae C. Jemison. Dr. Mae C. Jemison has talked about in the past how she was influenced by the TV show Star Trek, and she's talked about in the past about wanting to go into space. And let me pull up this clip here. Just a second. Now, Dr. Mae C. Jemison talked about I wanted to go into space. She was the first African-American female astronaut to actually go into space. And she was influenced by Star Trek and Lieutenant Uhura. Okay, let's go to this clip here.
I grew up in the 60s. I lived on the south side of Chicago. And I was a young girl who loved to stare up at the stars. I imagined myself going there. I studied all the things about the Apollo program. I knew what mission was going to take place when, what it was supposed to accomplish. I decided to go to medical school because I wanted to do something called biomedical engineering. While I was in medical school, I had the opportunity to go and work in a Cambodian refugee camp. I went to study group in Cuba. I worked with the flying doctors in East Africa. But I still wanted to go into space, so I applied. I picked up the phone. I called down to Johnson Space Center. I said, I would like an application to be an astronaut. They didn't laugh. I turned in the application. There may be a certain naivete when I say, when I applied to the astronaut program, I didn't even think about the fact of whether I would be the first African-American woman in space or anything like that. It didn't even cross my mind. I wanted to go into space. I couldn't have cared if there had been 1,000 people in space before me or whether there had been none. I wanted to go. I thought it was important to take to space with me things that represented people who sometimes are not included. So I took a poster of Judith Jemison performing the dance cry. I took a Bundu statue, which was for the Women's Society in West Africa. I took up a flag for the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the oldest African-American women's sorority in the United States, because they hadn't been included, and I thought that was an important thing to do. For me, the experience was one that made me feel very connected with the universe. I felt my being was as much a part of this universe as any star, as any comet. It helped me to recognize that right now, we're in space. This Earth is part of that universe. That was my grand connection. And then I looked down and I saw Chicago. I thought about the little girl who had assumed she would go into space. What would my younger self have thought if she met me? And I think she would have been tickled.
Okay, so that's Dr. Mae C. Jemison. That is from Nova's Secret Life of Scientists and Engineers on YouTube. Nova's Secret Life of Scientists and Engineers. It's Dr. Mae C. Jemison talking about wanting to go into space, contacting NASA, getting the application to apply to the space program, etc. So, in a 1994 interview with C-SPAN, she talked about Star Trek and the impact that Star Trek had on her, and also she talked about appearing on Star Trek as well, with one of the Star Trek later series. Let's go to this clip.
Exploration. I was wondering, did you watch that program in the 60s, and did the character Lieutenant Uhura had any influence on your interest in becoming an astronaut?
Well, okay, I'm going to tell it all right now, okay? I was very much a Star Trek fan, and I like to say that I watched in the 60s when it first came on, so I go way back. And I thought the show was very wonderful because it was one of the first programs that had everybody, all kinds of ethnic groups together from the United States. We also had a program where it put women in non-traditional roles. So Lieutenant Uhura was maybe the first woman that you saw every day or every week on television who worked in a technical field. And so that was very exciting. And also, she was African, which was a very different kind of feel from television back then. So I was very much liked Lieutenant Uhura, and she was a very wonderful person for me. I since met Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, and we've become friends. She also was very instrumental in recruiting the first women and minority astronauts for NASA back in 1970s when they started the space shuttle program. And then to finish the whole story off and go full circle, I appeared on Star Trek. I appeared in Star Trek in 1993 on an episode called Second Chances, where there were two Rikers. I had a real small part, but it was fun.
All right. So that's Dr. Mae C. Jemison also talking about the Star Trek influence, and Nichelle Nichols, whose birthday is today. She turns 88 years old. Now, I was on her Twitter page, and follow her on Twitter because I want to do some more research about this. From my understanding, it's her official Twitter page, but there is some information on the Twitter page about her suffering from some type of elder abuse or something like that. So I want to look into that. But happy birthday to Nichelle Nichols. Now, it's also the birthday of one Denzel Washington. You may have heard of him one or two times, you know. You may have heard of Denzel. He's an up-and-coming actor, right? So Denzel Washington turned 66 today. He was born on December 28th, 1954. We posted about this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep also. So he, he's an actor, director, and producer. He has been described as an actor who reconfigured, quote, the concept of classic movie stardom, end quote, associating with characters defined by their grace, dignity, humanity, and inner strength. He's played everybody from Stephen Biko to he portrayed a principal in a movie. I think his last name was McCrae. The principal's last name was McCrae. He's just a fantastic actor. And let's go to this clip here. This is a post from Soul TV that we shared about Denzel Washington. I remember on the TV show A Different World. So I think one of the first roles that I knew him from was Saint Elsewhere. Okay, I think it was Saint Elsewhere. I think it was he was on the hospital drama show, and then I remember him in Cry Freedom about Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, Bantu Stephen Biko. And Of course, we remember him as Malcolm X, 1992, Spike Lee's Malcolm X. So Denzel Washington has received 17 NAACP Image Awards, 17 NAACP Image Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards, 1 Tony Award, and 2 Academy Awards. Best Supporting Actor for playing Union Army soldier Private Tripp in the historical drama film Glory, 1989. I remember Glory. Morgan Freeman's in Glory. And Best Actor for his role as corrupt Detective Alonzo Harris in the crime thriller Training Day in 2001. Now, I, along with many other people, think he should have won a Oscar for Malcolm X, okay? But he didn't. He won it for playing a crooked police officer. Now, in 2020, the New York Times ranked Denzel Washington as the greatest actor of the 21st century, the greatest actor of the 21st century. Okay, I can't argue with that one. You know, I can't. I mean, he's fantastic. He was in one movie. He was in the whole movie, laying in a hospital bed. Okay. Now, Denzel Washington has received much critical acclaim for his film work since the 1980s, including his portrayals of real-life figures such as South African anti-apartheid activist Bantu Stephen Biko and Cry Freedom in 1987. Malcolm X, as I said, 1992. But remember the Reuben Hurricane Carter in the Hurricane 1999. Football coach Herman Boone in Remember the Titans in 2000. Poet and educator Melvin B. Tolson in The Great Debaters in 2007, and drug kingpin Frank Lucas in American Gangster. Look, let me tell you something, right? Denzel played that role of Frank Lucas so well, I almost didn't want him to get arrested. Because it's like, man, I saw, Russell Crowe, and it's the scene. I've seen American Gangster a lot. It's a hell of a movie. There's a scene where at the church when Frank Lucas gets married, and then he comes out the church and it's the police are there waiting for him, and they they arrest him. I'm like, man, take your hands off of Denzel. What do you think you're doing? But he played that role of Frank Lucas so well, I almost didn't want him to get arrested. I'm like, dude. And so then I watch interviews with the real Frank Lucas. Okay, now for my research on this and like talking to people who had knowledge of that era in Harlem, and they may have been in Harlem at that time also, by the way, I ain't gonna say no names, but Frank, the movie made Frank Lucas out to be a bigger drug dealer than he actually was. Okay, he was a drug dealer in Harlem, but he wasn't as big as the movie made him out to be. All right, but Denzel played the hell out that role. I'm telling you. Okay. So he's a fantastic actor. I Remember the Titans. That was excellent. The Great Debaters. That's a historic film also. Melvin B. Tolson. All right. And then the Hurricane, Reuben Carter. And then I learned about Reuben Carter because I don't think I had heard about Reuben Carter before the movie The Hurricane came out in 1999. I learned about Reuben Carter from that movie The Hurricane. Then I saw interviews with the real Reuben Carter and things like this, and he devoted the rest of his life to like the Innocent Project and helping people who are wrongfully convicted get out of prison. Okay, so but see, this is something that actors can do. They can use their craft to illuminate stories, everyday stories of people that need to be told. And then these stories tie into history. Reuben Carter ties into history. Malcolm X ties into history. Now, Malcolm X wasn't an everyday person. He's an extraordinary person, but Malcolm X helped to empower everyday people. Okay, his mission, his speeches, and then after he leaves the Nation of Islam, getting involved in the civil rights movement. Malcolm was focused on interjecting Black nationalism into the civil rights movement. This is one of the themes that he talks about in the speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, that a lot of people misunderstand. You have to actually read the speech. I've got a copy of Malcolm X Speaks here somewhere, but you have to. Yes, right here. See, Malcolm X Speaks. This is a collection of speeches from Malcolm, most of them after he leaves the Nation of Islam. Because, see, Malcolm is even more powerful when he leaves the nation than when he's in the nation. No disrespect to the nation, but when he leaves the nation, he can speak for himself. And he gets involved in the civil rights movement also. Okay? So Malcolm X Speaks, this has a collection of speeches from Malcolm, majority of them, this is after he leaves the Nation of Islam. He officially separates from the nation March 8th, 1964. Okay. March 8th, 1964. So, and he first delivers the ballot or the bullet March 29th, 1964 in Washington Heights, New York. Then he delivers it April 3rd, 1964 in Cleveland, Ohio, and April 4th, 1964 at the historic King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit. Okay, so people actually have to read the speech and study it. Okay, now, Denzel Washington has been a featured actor in the films produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and has been a frequent collaborator of directors Spike Lee, Antoine Fuqua, and Tony Scott. Oh, also, what's not on here, this is from Soul TV. This right up on Denzel Washington. Let me see. There's one from Soul TV, and I think there's one from. Okay, yeah, it's continuing from Soul TV, but they don't have the Equalizer on here. Man, this dude played the Equalizer. Now, the first Equalizer movie was better than the second one. Man, I watched that first Equalizer movie at least 50 times. Dude, he played the hell out that role of Mr. McCall, the Equalizer, and then so he's in that one, and then the other one, the Magnificent Seven. He's in a Western, the Magnificent Seven as well. That's a good movie also, the remake of the original Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner. So Denzel's has been a featured actor in films from Jerry Bruckheimer and Spike Lee and other directors. In 2016, Denzel Washington received the Cecil B. DeMille. In 2016, Denzel Washington received the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award at the 73rd Golden Globe Awards. Okay. In 2002, Denzel Washington made his directorial debut with the biographical film Antoine Fisher. I saw Antoine Fisher as well. He's in that also. His second directorial effort was The Great Debaters, 2007, with Jurnee Smollett. Okay, Jurnee Smollett is fine too. I'm just saying. His third film, Fences, 2016, in which he also starred, was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. So it's Denzel Washington and Viola Davis in Fences. That is a hell of a movie. I mean, he played the hell out that role too. He said, I like that scene with his son. He said, I gave you that pumping heart. I mean, he played the role out that he played the hell out that scene also, out of that role as well in Fences. All these roles, versatile actor. Okay, so Denzel has appeared in at least 58 films. All right, so I want to see the next Equalizer movie. Waiting for that one. And you see him in Western. He's in the Western. Then the movie Out of Time. Okay, he was in Out of Time as well. That's another excellent movie. So happy 66th birthday to Denzel Washington. All right. There was We go back to the story quickly by Dr. Sharon Moore. Hospital CEO under fire for saying Black doctor who died of COVID intimidated her nursing team. Let's see here. She was her doctor, her freeze questions. Just a second here. Said he saw several. Okay. There was. Okay, Dennis Murphy, CEO of IU, Indiana University Health, has sparked anger with his description of Dr. Sharon Moore. Murphy said he saw several human perspectives in the story she told, that of physicians who were trying to manage the care of a complex patient in the midst of a pandemic crisis, where the medical evidence of special treatments continues to be debated in medical journals and in the lay press. He continued, quote, and the perspective of a nursing team trying to manage a set of critically ill patients in need of care who may have been intimidated by a knowledgeable patient who was using social media to voice her concerns and critique the care they were delivering. All of these perspectives comprise a complex picture. His comments sparked an immediate backlash. Erica Nicole Kendall, a personal trainer, took issue with the idea of a complex patient, him referring to Dr. Sharon Moore as a complex patient. Quote, whenever you need to evade accountability, always start with the most accessible stereotype available, she said. This statement screams, quote, she was an angry Black woman, end quote. We'll talk about this some more on tomorrow's show, okay? All right, hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. African American business owners, email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a few slots left, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We create a 30-second and 60-second commercial for you, video commercial. It airs when we rebroadcast these shows. So we have some new commercials coming up. I'm recording some here in the next day or so. So email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, we'll talk about Kwanzaa. We talked about Kwanzaa some on our Sunday show. We'll talk about Kwanzaa some tomorrow night. Today is the third day of Kwanzaa Ujima, collective work and responsibility. The fourth day of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa, cooperative economics. We have the it's a four. We have my DVD presentation and digital download of 4 lectures I've done on Kwanzaa from the past few years. It's so it's 4 presentations on 4 presentations on 1 DVD. It's from Kwanzaa to Wakanda, from Kwanzaa to Wakanda, reconnecting African Americans to African culture for self-empowerment. Okay, from Kwanzaa to Wakanda, reconnecting African Americans to African culture for self-empowerment. So there are 4 presentations on here, and I deal with, let's see, from Kwanzaa to Wakanda. Wakanda deals with some of the history of Kwanzaa, the African roots of Kwanzaa, the traditional African first fruits harvest celebrations Kwanzaa is based upon, and shows how the celebration helps to reconnect African Americans to African history and culture. The film Black Panther also helps to reconnect us to African history and culture. The isiXhosa language spoken in the film Black Panther is a Bantu language, and Kwanzaa is a Kiswahili word, and Kiswahili is a Bantu language as well. There are African cultural influences we see in the film Black Panther from the 11 different African cultures that are represented in the film. The film relates to African history as well. For instance, T'Challa, Black Panther, portrayed by Chadwick Boseman, is the richest man in the world. And in history, that was Emperor Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, who became emperor of the Mali Empire in 1312 AD. Okay, so we'll post the link here. We have it in DVD and digital download format. We posted the link here. Is also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The digital download is on sale $8. DVD is $10. Okay. All right. And then also we have Ancient Kemet, the Winter Solstice, and the History of Christmas. It's a 3-hour presentation I've done dealing with the whole history of Christmas and the pre-Christian origins of Christmas, the pre-Christian winter solstice festival Christmas comes from. Okay, that's Kemet, the winter solstice, and the history of Christmas as well. That's a 3-hour presentation. Pull that up. And we have that on DVD and digital download also. Let's see, where is that? Okay, right here. It's a 3-hour presentation that's available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. We'll post a link here also. All right, look, we got to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.